Welcome back to Take the Leap Management, the podcast where we dive into strategies that help you lead your projects and portfolios with clarity and foresight. All right, let's take a look at the argument that risk analysis in most IT projects is becoming increasingly irrelevant. On the surface, this may seem counterintuitive, but there are compelling reasons to consider this perspective, especially in the context of modern IT project management practices. First, many of the risks in IT projects are well known and predictable. Over the years, the industry has seen recurring risks that affect nearly every project, such as scope creep, technology changes, budget overruns, resource shortages, and integration challenges. These risks are not only well understood, but they've become almost baked into the DNA of IT project management. Think about it. When you're managing an IT project, you already know you're going to face some version of these issues. You're going to have compatibility problems with legacy systems. Users will demand more features than initially planned, and there will be delays in software development. In a way, these risks are predictable, and because they're so familiar, they've become part of the expected challenges that every IT team faces. If the risks are predictable and recurring, then does risk analysis really provide any new or valuable insights? After all, when you already know what the common issues are, isn't risk analysis just stating the obvious? In many cases, it doesn't feel like risk analysis is uncovering anything groundbreaking. You're identifying the same risks every time. We might exceed the budget, or there's a risk of delays due to integration problems, and the mitigation strategies are often limited in their effectiveness. How many times have IT teams tried to mitigate scope creep, only for it to happen anyway, because stakeholders continue to evolve their needs? It raises the question, are we just going through the motions of risk analysis without truly changing the outcome? Another key point is that many risks in IT projects are hard to mitigate. For instance, technology evolves so quickly that risks related to obsolescence or integration can be difficult to predict or plan for. Even with thorough risk analysis, it's nearly impossible to fully mitigate the risk of a key technology becoming outdated or a critical vendor failing to deliver on time. Take cloud migration projects, for example. No matter how much planning you do, the shifting nature of cloud services and evolving security standards make it hard to lock in mitigation strategies. IT project teams are often left with no choice but to adapt on the fly, which brings us to another important point. The rise of Agile project management has also made traditional risk analysis feel less critical. Agile is based on the idea of iteration and flexibility. It encourages teams to adapt as they go, responding to changes and challenges in real time. In an Agile framework, you don't need to predict every possible risk up front, because the methodology is designed to pivot and adjust to those risks as they emerge. Instead of spending a lot of time up front trying to identify and mitigate risks, Agile teams simply move fast and course correct as needed. In an Agile environment, the iterative nature of sprints and short feedback loops allows teams to quickly identify issues and deal with them in the next iteration. This makes long-term risk analysis less important because you're constantly adapting. If a risk materializes, you can adjust your plan in the next sprint, reprioritize the backlog, or change the deliverables in a way that minimizes its impact. You don't need to predict what's going to go wrong 6 months from now, because you're checking in on a 2-week cycle. Let's say you're developing a new app in an agile environment. Sure, there's a risk that the client will ask for new features late in the process, but Because you're working in short sprints, you can address this risk iteratively. You can adjust the scope incrementally, which removes the pressure to predict or mitigate the risk at the start of the project. In fact, in Agile, you embrace change rather than fearing it. You aren't locking in rigid mitigation strategies up front. You're adapting as you go. And that's the whole point of the methodology. Moreover, mitigating risks in Agile can feel redundant. If the core philosophy is to remain flexible and adaptable, does it make sense to spend extensive time on risk mitigation strategies? Teams working in Agile environments often believe that overplanning can be counterproductive, as it goes against the very essence of Agile: continuous delivery, fast feedback, and adaptability. In traditional project management, risks related to changing requirements or stakeholder expectations might be flagged as significant, with detailed mitigation strategies put in place to keep the project on track. But in Agile, changing requirements are expected and welcomed, as the methodology is built around the idea that customer needs will evolve. So, why spend time creating extensive risk mitigation plans for something that's not only likely to happen, but is part of the process itself? Finally, there's the reality that many IT projects, especially in Agile environments, are about failing fast and learning quickly. Teams are encouraged to experiment, try new ideas, and see what works. This means that not only are risks accepted, but in some cases, risks are seen as opportunities. If you're going to iterate quickly and pivot when something doesn't work, the focus shifts from preventing risks to learning from them. In this context, traditional risk analysis can seem like a backward-looking approach that emphasizes avoidance, rather than embracing the flexibility and learning opportunities inherent in Agile. Take the development of a new software feature. In a traditional environment, you might spend time analyzing the risk of the feature being too complex for users or not aligning with their needs. In an Agile environment, you'd simply build a minimum viable product, MVP, release it, gather feedback, and adjust. There's no need for deep risk analysis because the process itself is designed to handle uncertainty and change dynamically. In conclusion, when it comes to IT projects, especially in Agile environments, the predictability of risks and the built-in flexibility of the methodology make traditional risk analysis feel less essential. The same risks, budget overruns, scope creep, resource constraints, are well known, hard to fully mitigate, and often addressed more effectively through adaptive frameworks like Agile. Agile's emphasis on continuous iteration, short feedback loops, and rapid response to change reduces the need for detailed risk planning upfront. Instead, teams can focus on adjusting in real time as risks emerge, making risk analysis feel less like a strategic necessity and more like an unnecessary exercise. Thanks for tuning in to Take the Leap Management. Whether you agree or disagree, I hope this episode got you thinking about the role of risk analysis in IT projects and whether it's really as crucial as we often make it out to be. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and stay tuned for more insights into project management in today's fast-changing landscape. Until next time, stay agile, stay adaptable, and keep taking the leap.